Hey everyone, happy Memorial Day. It's Connor. I hope you're doing well. Hopefully you had a good weekend with friends and family and that you got to check out the service yesterday and listen to Steve Carter, who's a preacher, a speaker, just an incredible person. He did an incredible job, and I'd encourage you, if you haven't done so yet, you should go back and check out that sermon from yesterday. Today we're going to talk about kind of what Steve did. We're going to jump into chapter 3 of John. And before we do, a few weeks ago we talked about baptism. The Devo is called What is Baptism? Part 1. Today is a continuation of that. It's Part 2. So if you're someone who is curious about baptism, you're going to know what that is, or maybe you come from a church background where you're more familiar with it. Wherever you are on that spectrum, this is a helpful conversation. And if you didn't listen to the What is Baptism Part 1, I'd encourage you to go back and check it out. And so let's jump into chapter 3 of John. After this, Jesus and his disciples went into the Judean countryside. So the after this is referring to the conversation between Nicodemus and Jesus. Nicodemus was a Jewish leader. He was curious about who Jesus was, and it's where Jesus says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life." So after that conversation, that exchange between them, we get into the after this, the next part of this chapter. So Jesus and his disciples went to the Judean countryside, and he remained there with them and was baptizing. So Jesus and the disciples are baptizing. John makes it clear and wants us to know, as he's going to his next gig, he's baptizing people, and the disciples are as well. And then John the Baptist also was baptizing at Aenon near Salim, because water was plentiful there, and people were coming and being baptized. In part 1 of What is Baptism, Sarah just kind of gave an overview of what baptism is, the symbology of it, really. And today I'm just going to piggyback off of the great words that she had and just say, John takes time to write down that Jesus and the disciples, as well as John the Baptist, were baptizing people. And that there seemed to be an urgency as people were hearing the gospel, were witnessing what Jesus was doing. They just wanted to come in line with who he was and wanted to take a next step of faith. And that's really simply what this Devo is about today. Baptism, in some faith denominations, it's held to such a high place that it seems like it's all or nothing with baptism, and then it can seem so small and insignificant in other denominations. I don't know how well we get it right, but what I do know for sure is that we value baptism here at Eastview, and we believe it's an essential step, an important step of faith, because that's what Jesus did. Jesus, as he's going about his ministry in the book of John, he makes it a point to baptize people who were Jewish, people who believed that they were saved just because they were born into Jewish families were even getting baptized, whether they really needed to or not. They were just doing it because that's what Jesus, and of course Jesus' cousin John the Baptist, was instructing and doing. So here's the next step for you. Maybe you've thought about baptism. Maybe you've been talking to a friend or a pastor or a mentor about baptism. And what I would say is get on our website, eastview.church, and schedule a baptism. Schedule a conversation with a pastor. Take that next step of faith if that's something that you've been thinking about and praying about. And that's something that we'd love to celebrate in a service, you getting baptized. So that's the next step. We hope you continue to check out these Devos this week. We'll see you next time.